Hello, and the purpose of this video is to reply to a video that was posted on jw.org about the issue of social justice. The video itself is by William Malenfant. William Malenfant. And it is titled, Satan is, quote, the father of the lie, end quote. And it is based on John 8:44, and it is apparently a morning worship that they did at Bethel or what have you. So, another channel, somebody else replied to this video, and they did a really good job of it. And I'm going to put a link in the description. It was in the channel was excuse me.
What this means for you.
The AltWorldly channel, and he had a video called Watchtower Says Social Justice is Satanic, and I'm going to put a link in the description to that video because that is the first video I watched replying to the William Malenfant video. But after watching that, I thought I need to do my own reply, because this issue of the social justice and what have you relates to me personally, because I have posted 2 videos on this channel specifically criticizing the Christian neutrality. So I consider that this William Malenfant video that they posted in jw.org is a reply to the issues I raised in the 2 videos I made. It is not a reply to me directly, of course, because I don't think they would. The Watchtower doesn't pay attention to what goes on YouTube. They deliberately ignore YouTube unless it is something like, unless it is a big, like a prominent YouTuber like Lloyd Evans. They target because he's prominent. But people like me who are not really prominent or whatever, they don't really target. They don't really care about what we have to say. Especially me, since I'm disfellowship, whatever, or disassociated or what have you. They don't care about what I have to say. But I do care about what they have to say, because many millions of people, at least 8 million people, are watching that video, and that needs to be responded to, right? So, yeah. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead as usual. What I'm going to do is I'm going to play the audio of the video, and then I'm going to pause and comment. The video is by William. It's a morning worship by William Malenfant, titled Satan is the Father of the Lie, and it is based on John 8:44. And it's in the jw.org website, and I'm going to post a link in the description so you can look at it or download it or whatever you want. But let's hear what he has to say.
The scriptures do not say specifically that the devil fathered any of the Nephilim. But Jesus' words at John 8:44 reveal the fact that the devil does indeed have children, figuratively speaking. He can't create humans, but he can influence people to reflect his characteristics, and that is what makes them his children. Turn with me to John 8:44. We'll read the entire text. Jesus' words, knowing that the religious leaders were out to kill him, Jesus' words points out who their father is. John 8:44. Jesus said, "You are from your father the devil, and you wish to do the desires of your father. That one was a murderer when he began, and he did not stand fast in the truth, because truth is not in him. When he speaks the lie, he speaks according to his own disposition, because he is a liar and the father of the lie."
Okay, yeah, that's interesting right there. So basically what he's saying right there is that anybody, okay, if you do not agree with Jehovah's Witness theology, if you don't agree with the interpretation of the New World Translation of the Holy Scriptures that comes from the Watchtower magazine, which ultimately comes from the governing body or the governing body helpers, if you don't agree with the theology coming out of the organization, you are, and you publicly say so, you are the son of the devil, right? You are working for the devil. You're the son of the devil. You're Satan's adopted son. So basically, it's either our way or the highway. Either you are with us or you're with Satan. You know, that's what he's saying here, apparently.
So according to the text, at one time he was in the truth. But he had free will, and he toyed with wrong thinking to such a degree that it eroded anything that was good, and nothing good was left within him. And he made himself into the father of the lie, Satan.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, so basically what he just said here is, you know, exemplifies Jehovah's Witness mentality. You know, he was once in the truth. That's an indirect reference to all of us in here on YouTube. There's a ton of ex-Jehovah Witness channels, right? Lloyd Evans, ExJW Critical Thinking, ExJW Fifth, The Truth Hurts, AltWorldly, you know, all these other people, right? I'm a very small channel. I'm new. I'm only a couple of months old. I mean, some of these people have been in YouTube for years, you know, and I mean, apparently all of us, you know, a lot of these people who are ex-JW used to be in the truth, right? In the truth. And we, you know, we change our mind because for one reason or the other, you know, people's minds change, okay? And it is okay for a person's mind to change. It is okay for a person to change their belief system. You know, in fact, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which Jehovah's Witnesses do not respect, Article 18 is clear. Everybody has the right to enter and leave any religion. You have the right to change your views, your religious views, right? And Jehovah's Witnesses do not recognize that. You know, Jehovah's Witnesses complain that, you know, for example, the Putin regime in Russia is violating their human rights, and they're correct. The Putin regime is violating their human rights but then they themselves don't respect the rights of people who leave, because people who leave are treated the same as people who are disfellowshipped. They're shunned. So Jehovah's Witnesses punish people who disassociate, and that is why at least 10% of Jehovah's Witnesses are PMOs, physically in, mentally out. People who are in only and play along only because they're afraid that of the consequences of being shunned, like losing their family. You know, in my case, when I was in, they had a gun to my head in a different sense. It wasn't about family, it was about something else. Basically, my entire, you know, life was the Jehovah's Witnesses for 2 years, you know. And I mean, what I was threatened with is total destitution, right? And total social ostracism, losing my entire social network, which happened anyways. But and for that year that I was PMO, what I hesitated jumping out because I was afraid of the consequences, until finally on November the 11th, 2021, I said no more. And I jumped ship. You know, I left. And I disconnected from them, and I left. I didn't look back, you know. But now I'm being shunned. Right, for it. So I think they consider me disfellowship or disassociated. I don't know, but I'm being shunned. Whatever.
The devil. Now, if we add Jesus' words with what John wrote at 1 John chapter 3, verse 10, we can identify specific characteristics of the children of the devil and the children of Jehovah God. Let's read that together. 1 John chapter 3, verse 10. It states, the children of God and the children of the devil are evident by this fact. Whoever does not practice righteousness does not originate with God, nor does the one who does not love his brother.
Okay, so if you do not love your brother, what did he say? That whoever doesn't practice righteousness is not of God? Okay, is murdering an 11-year-old boy practicing righteousness? Is a Jehovah's Witness father telling the doctor, do not give my son, my 11-year-old son, a blood transfusion, I'll let him die because we're Jehovah's Witnesses? Is that, you know, loving or whatever? Is that like a righteousness? I don't think so. Murdering an 11-year-old boy over theology, like they murdered Gerald Scepter, is not righteousness. Okay, is it righteousness to like tell the two daughters and grandchildren of a 65-year-old woman with bipolar disorder, you have to disconnect from her because she is disfellowshipped, and then the woman, because of the loneliness, the woman developed depression and suicidal ideation and ended up killing herself. Is that practicing righteousness? Pushing that woman to suicide because of the shunning? Or what about Stephen Kemp, a young gay man who came out and said to his family, I'm gay, and they disfellowship him. And 5 years later, because of the loneliness and the ostracism, he committed suicide. Is that practicing righteousness to drive a young man to suicide because of something he can't help? He was born gay. He can't help it. You know what I mean? So no, that's not practicing righteousness. If your theology murders people, that is not practicing righteousness, in my view. So I don't know.
We must practice righteousness, but it's not self-righteousness. We don't establish what is righteous for ourselves. It's Jehovah's righteousness. Isn't that what Jesus said in Matthew 6:33? Keep on seeking the kingdom and his righteousness, the standards that Jehovah God has set for us. That is what righteousness is. And one of the points about being righteous and serving God is that we are no part of the world. And what's interesting about that idea is that there are many people in the world who think they are righteous, evident.
Okay, so being righteous, again, this righteousness stuff, that Jehovah decides what is right and wrong. Okay, I have doubts as to whether, I have doubts as to whether, Jesus never shunned anyone. Jesus never said shun people. Jesus never said deny people medical treatment and rather than whatever. Jesus never said drive people to suicide through shunning. Jesus said forgive 77 times. And Jehovah's Witnesses do not forgive the disfellowship because they don't care about the disfellowship. They don't care about what happens to the disfellowship or the disassociated. As far as they're concerned, those people are dead. And if their Jehovah's Witness family are required to shun them. So I don't know. I don't think Jesus ever said anything about people being required to shun their family members. I don't think that's any I don't know. And again, and this whole issue with what Jehovah likes and dislikes, what Jehovah's Witnesses mean by that is they go into the Old Testament, into the Mosaic law, and they draw principles, which is a backhanded way of bringing back Mosaic law. They bring back principles, and then they tell people they have to live according to those principles, even though the people being told to live according to those principles are not Israelites, are not Jewish, and are not part of the covenant where that Mosaic law comes from. So people are required to live according to laws that are not meant for them, according to Jehovah's Witnesses. So I don't know, this whole concept of what Jehovah likes and doesn't like, I find very problematic.
By this fact, whoever does not practice righteousness does not originate with God, nor does the one who does not love his brother. We must practice righteousness, but it's not self-righteousness. We don't establish what is righteous for ourselves. It's Jehovah's righteousness. Isn't that what Jesus said in Matthew 6:33? Keep on seeking the kingdom and his righteousness, the standards that Jehovah God has set for us. That is what righteousness is. And one of the points about being righteous and serving God is that we are no part of the world. And what's interesting about that idea is that there are many people in the world who think they are righteous. They set their own standards. There are people who believe they're practicing righteousness as they set about to bring about social justice or remove injustices in the political, the commercial, the economics of this world. That is what righteousness is. And one of the points about being righteous and serving God is that we are no part of the world.
Okay, this whole issue of social justice and seeking, denouncing injustice in the economic, which they call it the commercial system, the commercial system, which by they mean capitalism, perhaps, the commercial system and the political system. In other words, injustice coming from the Satan system, right? Because they believe that the political and the economic system is controlled by Satan. It's Satan's system. Okay, I understand that. And because it is controlled by Satan, it is inherently unjust. Injustice is a byproduct of the fact that the political and economic system is controlled by Satan. I understand that. That's their belief system. That's great. However, the Christian neutrality rule of the Jehovah's Witnesses, number one, it grants impunity to Caesar. And by Caesar, I mean the political state, right? Caesar is the name given to the political state by the Radical Reformation. So Caesar, if you are politically neutral, that means that you're giving Caesar impunity to do whatever he wants. He can be as tyrannical as he wants, right? And if you look in the Bible, at the history in the Bible, John the Baptist denounced Herod Antipas. He denounced Herod Antipas because he married the wife of his brother who wasn't dead, right? So he stood in front of the palace and denounced Herod Antipas and said, "You need to give that woman back. And if I don't tell you that you're sinning, I cannot, be in good standing with God because I'm letting you commit this sin, which taints the whole of Israel," or something to that effect. John the Baptist stood up to Herod Antipas and told him off, basically. John the Baptist did not grant impunity to Herod Antipas. John the Baptist was not neutral, right? So yeah, if you believe in political neutrality, first of all, political neutrality is a political position because it has political consequences. So, and one of the political consequences is that Caesar is given impunity. Caesar cannot be granted impunity. Caesar has to be denounced. The same way that John the Baptist denounced Herod Antipas, Caesar needs to be denounced. So, so I'm not granting impunity to Caesar. And I don't care about the consequences. I don't care what Caesar does to me. John the Baptist was beheaded, In fact, when they were going to behead John the Baptist, he died. He died preaching. While they were when they were gonna swat his head off, he was preaching from the prison or whatever, denouncing Herod Antipas, So, yeah, whatever. So yeah, it is necessary to denounce social and political injustice. It is necessary to denounce the tyranny of Caesar. You do not grant impunity to Caesar. Christians should not grant impunity to Caesar. No.
And what's interesting about that idea is that there are many people in the world who think they are righteous. They set their own standards. There are people who believe they're practicing righteousness as they set about to bring about social justice or remove injustices in the political, the commercial, the economics of this world. They want to see justice for all, no more racial inequality, and so many other items they follow through on to remove from this world scene today. And they feel that they truly are being righteous. When it appears, though, that one injustice is removed, and it only appears that way in many cases, isn't there always another one that comes up? Aren't there a multitude of injustices in this world? It makes me think about a long time.
Okay, I agree with William Malenfant on that one. Sure, injustice is inherent. Injustice is inherent. Injustice keeps happening, and there are many theories as to what that is. The Marxists would say it's because of the capitalist system. The anarchists would say because of the system of the state which is based on power. Whatever. Anarcho-capitalists would say their injustice comes from the fact that the state distorts market relations, free market relations. All sorts of theories are there. Trying to explain why injustice happens. Injustice happens anyways, right? I mean, we live, the Swedish state, like I just said, there's all sorts of injustices coming out of, and tyranny coming out of the Swedish state, right? So, yeah, let's say that we get the Swedish state to shut down the immigrant detention. Let's say that we get the Swedish state to force the police to give transsexual people ID cards that reflect their true gender. Let's say that we accomplish those two things. I'm sure that down the line there'll be other injustices showing up, right? But then we take on those injustices too, and we keep taking on them and on them and on them and on, and we don't stop, right? We don't stop because you do not you do not grant impunity to Caesar. So yeah, it doesn't matter that their injustices keep coming. You still keep fighting because you do not grant impunity to Caesar, because that's what John the Baptist did, for example, right? And this is in the New Testament.
A faithful servant of Jehovah who was approached by a group of men who criticized Jehovah's Witnesses because we don't get involved in working against the social injustices of this world. Our brother, who was known for being straightforward, and outspoken, said that what these men were doing in their fight against injustices in the world, they were battling against spider webs. Injustices were like spider webs, and they would fight and battle, and they would demonstrate to bring down a spider web, but another spider web was being woven, being spun, or maybe the same one, in many cases, just come up again. And it just continues on and on that way. And then he looked at the men and he said, but we are going to get the spider, Satan, the devil. You're after the webs, what he produces. You've got to go to the source and see that the spider is eliminated. And it's Jesus Christ who's going to abyss Satan, the devil. The spider whose spit is what makes them his children. They're independent. You don't need. And it's Jesus Christ who's going to abyss Satan, the devil, the spider who's spinning all of these things to distract people from the real issue about God's kingdom and serving Jehovah wholeheartedly.
Okay, so according to William Malenfant, it's going to be the source of the injustice is Satan, because the commercial and political system and Babylon the Great, which is the system of false religion, all these systems are controlled by Satan, right? Okay, fine. And these systems of false religion, political system, Caesar, which is the political system, and the commercial system, which is capitalism, I suppose. These systems generate injustices. Okay, fine. And we're supposed to just sit with our thumb up our asses and let these systems, victimize people and oppress people and do whatever they want, right? While Jesus comes. We've been waiting for Jesus for 2022 years and nothing happens. Okay. No, I don't think so. I think that, okay, fine. We can wait for Jesus all you want. We'll wait for Jesus, I'll wait for Jesus, fine. But while I'm waiting for Jesus, I'm not going to grant impunity to Caesar. And again, I base myself on the work of John the Baptist. When he came up to Herod Antipas, and he denounced publicly, in front of everybody, denounced Herod Antipas. In that case, it was a case of corruption on the part of Herod Antipas. But I mean, Herod Antipas was a tyrant, So, yeah. And John the Baptist did not grant him impunity. John the Baptist was not neutral. John the Baptist denounced him.
That spider will be thrown into the abyss. No more spider webs. Truly, the devil's lie to Eve about becoming like God, knowing good and evil, has had far-reaching consequences that affect people more than ever, right down to this day. We see it. The world's attitude. They're independent. You don't need God. We don't need to be guided by scriptural principles, what the Bible says. You decide for yourself how you want to live. There are no moral standards. You fix your own standards. Isn't that precisely what Satan told Eve? You can be like God. You decide what's good, what's bad, what's right for you and not right. And they feel so sophisticated and so wise. We can fix our problems. Oh, really? We look at the world scene today. Are they really fixing the problems? What do we really see happening? It's out of control. The entire world scene is out of control. The world, in its wisdom, prefers the lie, even though they don't recognize the liar. They still prefer the lie instead of recognizing their need for Jehovah God. And the outcome for the world is stated for us in Jeremiah chapter 8, verse 9. The wise have been put to shame. They have become terrified, and they will be caught. Look, they have rejected the word of Jehovah. And what wisdom do they have?
Okay, look, I respect William Malenfant, He's a man of faith, He's a man of faith. I respect him. His faith is impeccable, He has faith that Jesus is going to come back and fix everything. And he's willing to just sit back and wait and let Caesar do whatever he wants. Okay, that's his choice. And this issue of moral standards, ethics and morals are relative to cultural context, historical context, and ideological and theological inputs. Okay, ethics. There is no universal ethics, and there is no universal interpretation of what Jehovah likes and doesn't like, because different denominations of Christians interpret that differently. For example, Ecumenia Shirikan believes that all are welcome. All are welcome to the Eucharist. All are welcome to stay in Sweden. All are welcome to heaven. That's their interpretation, and they're Niceno-Constantinopolitan. I don't agree with the premises of their theology, because I don't believe in the Council of Nicaea. But still, they're a legitimate Christian organization. They have their interpretation. Jehovah's Witnesses have a different interpretation. They believe that you have to hate what Jehovah hates, and Jehovah hates homosexuals, so you have to hate the homosexuality. Ecumenia Shirikan says no. God created homosexuals that way, and we accept them. Whatever. In Ecumenia Shirikan, if the pastor agrees, he can perform a gay marriage. So different. The moral thing is relative to different denominations' interpretations of whatever. So there is no universal standard here for what is Jehovah's what have you. And another thing is the issue of agency, and William Malenfant doesn't like that. He ignores this. Apparently he doesn't like the fact that agency is God-given. I have a God-given right to accept and reject. Okay, accept and reject. I have and he said at the beginning, I have free will. But then the problem with him is that if you apply your free will in a way that doesn't agree with the interpretation of the Watchtower organization, you're doomed. You are going to the lake of fire. You will be destroyed by Jehovah. It doesn't work that way. Okay, it doesn't work. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. No.
But you might ask the question, why? Why are people so determined to go their own way? What's wrong with their thinking? There are various reasons, but there is one that truly stands out. And the Apostle Paul spoke about it in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 10. And this is what Paul said in part. He tells us that people will perish because they did not accept the love of the truth in order that they might be saved. Yes, the love of the truth. People really don't love truth. They want to make up their own truths, which are lies. They're not truths. Characteristics. And the Apostle Paul spoke about being is out of control. The world, in its wisdom, prefers the lie.
Wait, let me put him back where he was.
To distract people from the real issue about God's kingdom and serving Jehovah wholeheartedly.
For a while.
That spider will be thrown into the abyss. No more spider webs. Truly, the devil's lie to Eve about becoming like God, knowing good and evil, has had far-reaching consequences that affect people more than ever, right down to this day. We see it. The world's attitude. They're independent. You don't need God. We don't need to be guided by scriptural principles, what the Bible says. You decide for yourself how you want to live. There are no moral standards. You fix your own standards. Isn't that precisely what Satan told Eve? You can be like God. You decide what's good, what's bad, what's right for you and not right. And they feel so sophisticated and so wise. We can fix our problems. Oh, really? We look at the world scene today. Are they really fixing the problems? What do we really see happening? It's out of control. The entire world scene is out of control. The world, in its wisdom, prefers the lie, even though they don't recognize the liar. They still prefer the lie instead of recognizing their need for Jehovah God. And the outcome for the world is stated for us at Jeremiah chapter 8, verse 9. The wise have been put to shame. They have become terrified, and they will be caught. Look, they have rejected the word of Jehovah. And what wisdom do they have? But you might ask the question, why? Why are people so determined to go their own way? What's wrong with their thinking? There are various reasons, but there is one that truly stands out.
Okay, there is nothing wrong with agency. Agency is God-given. I have the right to accept and reject. God gave me that right. Okay, and number two, this issue of Eve whether Adam and Eve existed is debatable. Again, I've said this in other videos. The science of population genetics pretty much points out that it is impossible that 7 billion human beings today descend from two persons 6,000 years ago. Okay, but whatever.
Out. And the Apostle Paul spoke about it in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 10. And this is what Paul said in part. He tells us that people will perish because they did not accept the love of the truth in order that they might be saved. Yes, the love of the truth. People really don't love truth. They want to make up their own truths, which are lies. They're not truths. We must accept the love of the truth. And it's really quite wonderful that Jehovah has made the truth in such a way that it appeals to our heart as well as to our head. Think about the time when Jesus taught the truth to his disciples who were walking on their way to Emmaus. Remember how they responded? It's at Luke 24:32. They said, "Were not our hearts burning as he was speaking to us on the road, as he was fully opening up the scriptures to us?" And I found a very interesting comment in the Watchtower on this verse. It's the Watchtower of 1962, April 15, page 227. This is what it said. "Only when we have real love for the truth will we go through the experience of burning hearts." Isn't that fascinating?
Well, the problem is that truth is different for different people. See, truth, okay, like I've said before, okay, this is the way I see it, okay? And yeah, I have the right to see things the way I see them, okay? Because I have agency and I can accept and reject. And I have critical thinking faculties that were given to me by God. In Jehovah's Witnesses, you're not supposed to think critically. In Jehovah's Witnesses, you're not supposed to go to higher education because they're afraid that if you go to higher education, exposure to critical thinking or counterfacts will destroy the truth in your head and you'll become an apostate. So, whatever. In Jehovah's Witnesses, you don't have individuality. Individuality is suppressed. Okay, the congregation is an organic entity which de-individualizes you, where you have no critical thinking and you are subject to the whim of the elders, right? And then the elders in turn are subject to the whims of the organization, the circuit overseer, whatever the regional office. It's like a hierarchy thing, a totalitarian hierarchy, a machine, basically, where you are no longer an individual, you're a cog in a machine. Okay, that is not what God wanted. I don't think so. That is not how the first century congregation worked. Okay, I don't think so. So anyways, the whole issue of people making up their own mind about what they believe or not, that's the way it is supposed to be. Every person should make up their own mind about what they believe or not. They should define for themselves what their values are individually. They shouldn't allow somebody else to tell them, you need to believe this. No. If I agree with something, it's because I choose to agree with it. Okay? Not because somebody's forcing me to it, or because somebody's telling me, if you don't agree with me, you're going to burn in hell. No. No. I have agency. I have the right to decide for myself what I agree, accept, and reject. I have that right. Okay, and that is not being arrogant and not humble. That is being human, because God gave me the right to agency. I have agency. Okay, so, and yeah, I understand, with choices come consequences. That's cool. And if that happens, I understand that's the consequence, but that's not going to shut me up. I will continue to denounce the fact that immigrant detention is unjust. I will continue to denounce the fact that deportation is unjust. I will continue to denounce the fact that not allowing transsexuals to have an ID card that reflects their gender is unjust. Not having specific laws that protect transsexuals in terms of employment and housing is unjust. I will continue to say those things, among other things that are wrong with the Swedish state. But those 4 things are the main things that I focus on, because I can't focus on everything. But those 4 things. I mean, yeah, there is a greater critique of the Swedish state, the political economy of the Swedish state. There is. But those 4 issues are the ones that I immediately care about right now, right? But and there is nothing wrong with that. That is what you're supposed to do, because you're not supposed to grant, you cannot let Caesar have impunity. You can't. You cannot. In the same way that John the Baptist did not allow Herod Antipas to have impunity when he stood in front of Herod Antipas and in front of the entire crowd denounced him for marrying a woman, the wife of his brother who wasn't dead. And that example is like Herod Antipas was breaking the Mosaic law, right? And Herod Antipas was subject to the Mosaic law because he was a Jew. I'm not, but he was. Whatever.
Think about when your heart has burned, when you've observed a drama, when you heard an encouraging talk, when you sang a wonderful kingdom song. Think about the Hezekiah drama, when we saw the angel spread his wings facing the Assyrian troops, and then devastation came. Didn't your heart burn? Or we think about when armed troops were stealthily advancing on our brothers in an open field, and then in the opened up heavens, we see Jesus on a white horse with bow in hand, ready to take vengeance on those who hate Jehovah. That's
vengeance on those who take Jehovah. Jesus comes from the clouds with an army of angels ready to take vengeance on those who hate Jehovah. He means the combined armies of the world's governments, and they will be slaughtered to a man by Jesus, okay? Inclusive the Pentagon. The mighty Pentagon will be brought down. They will be slaughtered, all of them. The Swedish army is slaughtered. The Swedish police, all of them will be slaughtered. And then after Jesus is done slaughtering them, then he will go after all the enemies of God, which means everybody who isn't a Jehovah's Witness. All the non-witnesses, the Muslims, the Catholics, the homosexuals, the liberals, the abortionists, everybody who is not a Jehovah's Witness, who is an enemy of God because they acted according to what Jehovah hates, they will be slaughtered by Jesus. Okay, and then on the crushed skulls of the enemies of God and on the ruins of the world's governments, the kingdom will be established by Jesus, and the Jehovah's Witnesses will prevail. Only the Jehovah's Witnesses. That's what William Malenfant is talking about when he talks about this vengeance against Jehovah's enemies.
a reality foretold in Scripture. That fires the heart. And there are other things that fire our heart. When we hear beautiful songs that are meaningful, such as Never Alone or Give Me Courage, and many others, the heart that loves Jehovah does indeed burn. And this is not just emotion. Our thinking ability and our emotions work together and motivate us to know and to feel the power of the truth. As the Watchtower I quoted from declares, our life depends on whether we have love for the truth. So love Jehovah, love our neighbor, and yes, we must love the truth.
Right. So yeah, but what is truth? As Pontius Pilate asked, what is truth? I'm skeptical as to whether the Watchtower organization's version of truth is really the truth. And like I said, for a year and a half when I was devout, my approach to the Watchtower was I turned my brain over to them. I said, okay, whatever the governing body says, the 6 months that I was unbaptized publisher and the first year that I was after I was baptized when I was devout, my approach was, oh yeah, I'll just, whatever the governing body says, whatever the Watchtower magazine says is true. I won't think about it. I'll just accept whatever they say. Just whatever they say is true, whatever. And I'll just focus on my field service. That was my attitude for the year and a half that I was an unbaptized publisher and the first year that I was devout. Until on October 9, 2020, I woke up, and I realized, there was a glitch in the matrix here involving, some verbal abuse and what have you, a glitch in the matrix, and let me start questioning, is this right, what I'm doing here? And then that led to all sorts of issues and whatever. And that's how I woke up, But, yeah, anyways, that is my rebuttal. It's not a rebuttal, it's not really a rebuttal. It's just a critical review of William Malenfant's Morning Worship, Satan is the Father of the Lie, based on his interpretation of John 8:44. Okay, that was it. Thank you.